So we keep talking about how to improve technology, but improving people is what will end up improving technology. And I think you have a system in place how someone can not worry about the nuances of the SEOs and the keywords and the what have you, but to go about doing what naturally comes to them, which is sharing their battle scars, talking about what works, what doesn't work, the acumen, like I mentioned before. You shared your opinion on the word authentic, but if you were to tell, leaders to be real, to be kind, right? If I were to be authentic and if I were to tell a friend of mine, hey, your hairstyle sucks. I'm being authentic, I'm being real, but it might dishearten his spirits. So what's the point of it? But I think being human and kind, and I'm quoting Seth Godin right here, one of the best marketeers and speakers. Being kind is so very important. So what tips do you have for leaders to be kind, to be real, in the light that they can help others succeed? Any thoughts out there?
I think the biggest thing is sharing your successes, but also not being afraid to share your failures, right? I think sometimes when you're in that place where we're so surrounded by ego, or sometimes it's fear, right? There's fear that someone else is coming after your job. So if you're not perfect or you don't present yourself as perfect, then, so I think what happens is people are attracted to people who are real, who share the good, the bad, the ugly, and I think that it's really about figuring out what feels right for you. And like you said, coming at it in a very kind perspective, because you could take someone aside and say, hey, I just wanted to say this. It's probably none of my business, but I wanted to share this with you because we're good friends. That hair, like your hairstyle is not ideal for you. I remember when you had your hair this way, it looked 100 times better. Like you could really, if you knew someone really well, you could broach that subject with them. But then you have to ask yourself, is it really that important, right? So I think the whole concept of being kind, but sometimes you do have to have difficult conversations with people if you feel like you can really help them. And so whether that's having a conversation one-on-one, or whether that's just being very straightforward about maybe talking about some of the toxicity in corporate America, talking about some of the things that don't feel good to you and how you would like to see the culture change. And maybe there's a fear of repercussion around that, but I do believe that if you do it in a tactful way, a kind way, and you lay the groundwork for opportunities of other ways that it could be done, nobody wants a problem. Give us some solutions. So you could say, I feel like this is the challenge, but here's some things. What if we did it this way? Or hey, if you like this video, you have an idea of how this could be done better, please share it in the comments below. Or, I also think if I were executive building a personal brand, maybe what I'd want to do is interview other people. Because sometimes I do think that creating content on your own can be a little isolating and feel like you're just kind of on the spot trying to talk to that little green light. So I think podcasts are so popular. So maybe having, a podcast where you interview people from all different industries that are in leadership roles, to talk about things that happened in their careers that were challenging, things that happened in their careers that went really well. And maybe talk about some of the problems that, are kind of, prevalent in all corporate environments, and talk about those things and how you guys would like to change it. Because the reality is you're the person to change it. If you want to be the person to change it, you're the person to change it.
That's a complete mic drop, Kirsten. And these are the kind of conversations we have enjoyed now for almost 2 years, right? We've been business associates. I've been a client of yours. We've met in Vegas. Virginia, of course, amazing times. And I think these are the mic drops that are so very key. And so the same way, like how we got connected, and I have my marvelous marketing VA, Anjali, who does, so many things. And I'm so blessed to have her thanks to you. Can you shine some light as to how do you think an executive, like a software VP or a engineering VP or marketing VP in tech or even outside of tech, can leverage a marketing VA to get on podcasts or maybe create content or edit content and go on YouTube? It might be an enigma for many people. It was for me.
Sure.
Simplify it for us. Yeah,
sure. So Jeannie and I work with our clients to figure out what their strategy would be. Would you like to start a YouTube channel and create content there? Would you like to start a podcast? And if so, who would you want to interview? And let's leverage some technology to make it really easy for you to consistently get guests. And I think the key for everything that we do is how can we do it effectively and efficiently? Because whether you own a business or you're a corporate executive, you're busy, right? So how could you leverage something like a virtual assistant and technology so that you could show up once a week, interview someone, on your podcast, hand that off to your virtual assistant who could take care of the video editing, audio editing, all the graphic design, create the social media post around it, and then share it out to the world for you. Because I think that's the key thing, is you need support to make it happen. Because no one wants to leave the end of the day. You want to go home and spend time with your family and have a nice meal,
Right.
or do things with friends. You don't necessarily want to go home and edit a video or edit a podcast. So I think that's what we really do. We focus on helping our clients get the support of a fantastic virtual assistant who's trained to do those things. And then, of course, like you said, the other opportunity is to have a virtual assistant who consistently gets you booked on other people's podcasts. If that feels like that would be something more in your wheelhouse. So we like to talk to people individually and find out what strategy would feel right for them. And I think, marketing is it's not one size fits all. So we'd want to figure out what platforms you'd want to be on, what would feel right to you, talk about the content strategy. What do you want to talk about? Who would you want to interview, or what type of podcast would you want to be on? And then from there, figure out how you can do it efficiently and effectively. And most importantly, have fun doing it. Because I have to say, you cannot tell me that working with Anjali is not fun.
Oh my goodness, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's stuff off of my plate so I can work on bigger aspects of the business. It's been a blessing. I think the reason why we have been able to scale is because of bringing Anjali on board. Anjali brought Crystal on board. Then we brought in interns. It's the best case scenario that I can think of. And I wanted to start my own business. And I can see that even as a business executive who's trying to establish their brand, their portfolio, you can't do it on your own. Even if you loved video editing, even if you did,
Right.
I think they would want to spend time with their friends, family, children, other hobbies, and consistency is, so you have a consistent way to leverage help that will allow you to scale. And I think that is a no-brainer once you understand the value proposition, how you can actually go about doing it.
Yeah, and I think that, once you start interacting and building relationships with people, you have your podcast, we have 2 podcasts, and I guest on a lot of people's podcasts. But what I think is so amazing is it's all about the relationships, right? I've got someone I'm going to introduce you to later via email, because I know the 2 of you could probably have a little bit of a collaboration. So I think that what I think that most executives would find is they would probably enjoy it more than they ever thought that they would. And they would probably also realize, wow, like I have so much information and valuable lessons and ways that I can support other people who are just coming up in their career, or who are maybe trying to figure out what they want to do in their career. Or perhaps they're, maybe even at a very similar level, but they've been too afraid to put themselves out there. So it's just a great way to start connecting with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think some success stories that you shared, you connected a few people with me. In one case, they were able to find a job. In another case, someone ended up joining a Series A startup. So more or less co-founding a company. Right. You never know where opportunities are going to come from. Let's get a little more technical here, more into the nitty-gritty details. I know you know how much I love SEO and searching. Thanks to you, the teachings that you have provided me. I've opened up a can of worms and I swim in that space. However, I think what's more relevant is, what are some key elements to make effective evergreen video content? So you have all these great ideas. There's a lot to share. Any suggestions as to how to make it evergreen?
So again, talking about things that are relevant, which make it a little bit harder in the tech space because things evolve. But like you said, a lot of the content is around people, management, leadership, culture. Those things are going to evolve, but not change. That content, I feel like in so many ways would be evergreen. But again, I think we talk a lot about, AI and different technologies that are evolving. So sometimes things are not always going to be evergreen, but they may be really relevant. So I think that's the balance, is not everything on your channel will always be evergreen, but a lot of it can be, especially when it's talking about leadership, management, business development, if you're looking at acquisitions within the company, that's something that you're a part of within the company. So there's so many things that are evergreen content. Start with content that you're excited to make and not worry as much about whether it's evergreen or not. because sometimes we just have to start, right? So if there's something that's been on your heart or your mind, or it's a pet peeve or whatever it is, start creating that content, have that conversation around it. And then over time, you will start to evolve with your strategy about what things you really want to hone in on. And your audience will tell you a lot too. They'll start to tell you what they want to learn more about. You know, you'll start getting questions. And I think as an executive or a leader, if you think about it, almost any question someone has asked you is very good content. You know, if somebody who works within your organization asks that question, there's a very good chance that other people have it. Most of the time we think it's just us. Oh, everybody else knows what they're doing with their 401k. I'm just an idiot, right? Or like, you know, we always feel that way, right? And it's not true. So having that conversation. So sometimes having the conversations just about all the different things and all the different parts within that corporation that could be meaningful.
That's so true. And you don't need to be, you know, go off the rails and quit your corporate job and become an entrepreneur. You can still be in corporate and do some healthy financial habits, like incorporate them, and starting with your 401k. Not many people know about it, and people are hesitant to ask questions like that. And I think as a leader, you know, you're responsible for your people, who are then responsible for the work that gets done and customers. So some of this really allows you to build clout, establish yourself as someone who they can trust. It goes a long way. Absolutely brilliant topic to bring up there. But there was something before that that also caught my attention. You said, just start.
Yeah, just start.
A lot of people don't start.
Yeah.
What's your advice to them to just start?
I think it's, first of all, don't feel like you have to create content every single day. Most of our clients, they create one video or one podcast interview a week. Sometimes they do it one a week. Sometimes they'll batch it, do 4 a month just to get it done. So figuring out how to just get those first few pieces of content done, and realize that when you watch yourself, you're going to hate the way you sound. You're probably going to hate the way you look. So I think it's just not being afraid. Like we are always so critical of ourselves. You know, a lot of times what we tell our clients is that, you know, having a great virtual assistant taking care of video editing and audio editing and adding in images and B-roll, things to make your content interesting. It's literally like having a magic wand. I feel like, you know, our VAs make us all look so good. And I think that that's part of it too, is just realizing that you have that support person who, you know, if you say something wrong, they're just going to edit it right out. You know, if you've been on the screen for 20 minutes by yourself, they're going to add some B-roll and images to make that video more visually intriguing, right? So I think if you can come up with your first 3 or 4 topics and then just hit record and just take it from there. I think that's what our advice is to everyone. So I think you have to realize that like I said, there's nobody that's going to fix it except for you. So there's so many things, equality, there's so many diversity, there's so many just great topics. And I don't think they have to be hot topics. I just think, you know, I think we all agree that we want, you know, a diverse environment. We want better equality within the workspace, especially between men and women and that income division there. So have the conversations without it being heated or really emotional. And we can start to change it little by little, I think.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. As leaders, you got to start the revolution, start the change, and just start. Wonderful. I do have my favorite rapid fire round, but before we even get to that, how can people get in touch with you? We're going to put in the show notes, like in the comment section later, your contact information, but I would like you to share, how can people get in touch with you?
Sure, you can reach us at Six Figure Business Coaching, and I'll give you a link where people can book a coffee chat with me if you just want to talk about, you know, what you want your brand to look like, you know, what are your concerns about creating a brand. We'll just talk it out. And I think Sue Rich will tell you that, you know, in our first couple conversations, you were actually looking at a couple of different companies. And I think as well, talk to whoever you want to talk to. This is how we do it. If you have any questions, come back. And so we're very laid back about that. So if you just want to have a conversation about what it would look like to start to build your personal brand and your fears and your concerns or your hopes and your dreams, I'd love to talk with you about it.
Wonderful. And I'm going to give an endorsement for everyone. I've seen it work not only for me, but all the other entrepreneurs who are on the program. I've been with you on 2 different programs. I highly endorse both you and Jeannie. Kirsten and Jeannie are the people you guys have to talk to. And they're systematic, they're pragmatic, and they care a whole lot for their clients. I cannot stress that enough.
Thank
So with that, you're welcome. I'm going to do one of my favorite parts, which is ask you a few questions. Let me just get my questions ready here. Be sincere.
It sounds so canned, doesn't it? Be sincere. But I think the reality is be yourself, and like you said, be kind. Because sometimes, you can't always say exactly what you're thinking. So be kind. Somehow that'll make you sincere.
Love it. Stay teachable.
Oh my gosh. So I think this is a really, and I could be misspeaking. So you tell me if I'm not accurate here. But I feel like with entrepreneurs, you're thrown into this world of having to wear so many hats. So you are learning all the time. It's often like drinking out of a fire hose. So I feel like baked into the culture of entrepreneurship is definitely you're always learning, and not just mentally learning, but emotionally. I think that's a big thing too, as we talk a lot more about our emotional IQ and learning to develop emotionally. So I would have to say that I think that I don't know what the corporate culture is around that, but I think that that's something that you should really try to talk to your managers and leaders about. If there are things you want to learn, make those requests, make it happen.
Wow. I don't think you can say it better than what you did. Love it. See good in others.
Oh my gosh, yes. And I think we have to remember that when we see fault in others, it's probably things that we see fault in ourselves, right? So when 100%. You see good in others, and I think not just see it, but compliment them. Let them know that you see it, because you never know when you may say something about, oh, that was such a great choice you made, or oh, I would have never thought about that. That's brilliant. Or that looks great on you today. You just never know where that person is in their life and how that could change them in so many ways.
Absolutely. Happiness is a choice.
It is, but it's not easy to choose all the time. That's what we have to understand. Yeah, it's not always easy to choose, but I think that goes into gratitude. I think if you can stay in gratitude, it makes being happier a lot easier.
Wow. Winning is an attitude.
Winning is an attitude, but winning by helping other people win is the right attitude.
Oh, you just made it even better. All right, have confidence in yourself.
Yes, I think especially, I'm gonna speak for women really quickly. I think women are so afraid to come across as egotistical or arrogant, so, it's even that type of thing where, if you're male and you're a leader, you're a leader. If you're female and you're being a leader, sometimes you're being the B word instead, right? Yeah, so we're so afraid of being egotistical or coming across as, being bossy rather than just having strong leadership skills. So I think it's just really important to understand that confidence comes from doing hard things. And I think ego is a totally different thing. Ego comes from, I think, thinking that you're better than or more than someone else. So I think just understand that your confidence builds every time you challenge yourself to do something hard, and that you deserve to celebrate the things that you've done and you've accomplished.
Absolutely. And I think being an ally is such an important thing for me personally. I was raised by my mom and sister, and now in my life, my wife is such an important piece of who I am and what I do and all my success and the good things I have, and of course 2 daughters. It's very natural for me to be an ally because I've always been surrounded by great, strong women. Yeah.
And it gives me chills because you're raising strong women who are not going to be afraid to step into leadership roles and to feel good about being confident about themselves and feeling good about lifting each other up and standing up for people who are being taken advantage of or who need someone to advocate for them, because that's what your confidence does. It allows you to help other people.
Very true. All right. Optimists take more chances.
Yes. Sometimes it can be crazy people take more chances. I think sometimes
Absolutely.
when you start a business, and I'm sure you left a really, good job, how many people thought you had lost your ever living mind, right? Are you crazy? So I think it is about being optimistic. It is about believing in yourself. And this circles back to you as an executive. Like, you may be so afraid, to start building a personal brand because people might think, well, who do you think you are? Or, hey, that isn't done in corporate America, or executives don't do that. Well, be the person who does that. Be the person that leads by example and allows other people to do that, because only good things are going to come from having that brand.
Absolutely. We are more than the halfway mark, so please be patient with me.
You're good.
Everyone differs from everyone else.
And I love when you come together and you have a room of people and you're throwing out ideas and one person starts it and someone else builds on it and it builds on it, and it comes out better than any one person in that room could have ever created.
All right. Courage is the willingness to attempt.
Yes. Yes. I mean, we're all faced every day with scary things, and some days you probably like to just stay in bed and pull the sheet over your head. But, I think it's just having the courage to face things and to take on new challenges, but also the courage to not be afraid to ask for help or support in things.
My goodness, such a healthy balance there. Yeah. And I think it speaks to, it is hard. A lot of the stuff we do is hard, whether it be in corporate or as entrepreneurs like us. And the strength of the tribe, like we meet every Tuesday, and that is my tribe. And that's where I get a lot of my courage from as well. So thank you. Yeah. Vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness.
It is. I think that's one of the things I struggle with. So I tend to have a lot harder time being really vulnerable. So it's something that I feel like we could all work on and evolve towards. But I think it is definitely a strength to be able to share, your fears or your insecurities or the things that you're just struggling with. And I think and again, I think so often, like, we love to help other people, but we forget how good it makes other people feel to help us.
You're giving them a gift, yes, of allowing them to help you.
Yeah.
Doing the right thing is never the wrong thing.
Sometimes it feels like it is, and sometimes you may be punished like it was. But I think if you don't stand on certain principles and your values, then you're not going to be able to look at yourself in the mirror, and that's really hard. So I think always doing what you feel like is the right thing. But I think it's also a matter of accepting the fact that sometimes you may have thought something was the right thing based on the information you had at the time. And as you learn more, maybe you realize it was the wrong thing. And that's part of being human, right? So you could apologize for it. You could go back and try to make it right. But sometimes every day we're just, learning lessons on how to, navigate through the world, and not everything is always right or wrong.
So don't allow one bad deed to define who you are. In less than 10 seconds, forget it, like a goldfish does. So what's your thought on that?
So my first thought went to the fact that a goldfish will stay small if you keep it in a small bowl.
Yeah,
right?
That is true. Yeah.
So my mind went to a different place. So I think it's one of those things that we have to realize sometimes we have to jump to bigger bowls and not be afraid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, this isn't the last and my most favorite, and I'm saving it for last. Be curious, not judgmental.
Again, yes, easier said than done, right? So I think being curious it makes life a lot more fun, because there's so many, it's a beautiful world, it's a big world, there's so many amazing people, and there's so much for us to learn. But I think part of our little lizard brain that tries to keep us safe is always wanting to judge so we don't get eaten by that lion or whatever. So, all you can do is check yourself. When you feel yourself being judgmental, don't beat yourself up over it. Remember, it's normal, and then change direction.
Wonderful. This has been an utter pleasure. I always learn something from you every single time. I don't know how you do that, but you are such a great person to be working with, getting to know, and I've had the pleasure of meeting you in person. Thank you so very much for coming here on our podcast. And I'm looking forward to working with you going forward. And thank you everyone who dialed in live on LinkedIn. Some of the great people that I know and I work with, your friends, your ex-colleagues. I'm so happy they got to hear you out, and the recording is going to be available on LinkedIn and then on our YouTube channel. This has been great. Thank you so much, Kirsten.
You're welcome. And I have to say, I always learn from you too. So it is a two-way street.
It is.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me.
Thank you.